So this patient died during surgery, but he came back to life. And what he said he saw afterwards kind of was incredible. But what really made this story interesting is he had witnesses. So we're going to get into this story. But first, hi, I'm Dr. Andrea O'Connor. Welcome to the channel. Hope you're doing well. Hey, give the video a like if you like this kind of content. Well, let's get right into this. So this is actually a true story, and you can look up the story. There's many interviews about it. Comment below if you know which doctor I'm talking about. But a very famous cardiac doctor, Dr. Rudy, worked in a Montana hospital, and it was a snowy Christmas day in the 1990s. And Dr. Rudy, being a legendary cardiac surgeon, stood at the edge of life and death. So he was a pioneer who helped unravel the mystery of heart attacks. And Dr. Rudy had already saved countless lives. But this day, he witnessed something that would shake his understanding of medicine and really the human soul. So the patient was a man battling severe heart valve infection, and he was laying on the operating table, and Dr. Rudy and his assistant, Dr. Amato, fought to save his life. So during surgery, they replaced the infected valve, but an aneurysm caused by the infection made recovery, it just was impossible. So despite every effort they made, the patient's heart stopped. And for 20 minutes, no matter what they did, they couldn't get a pulse. His breathing didn't return, just no vital signs. So the team, of course, did everything they could, shut off the machines, getting ready to write the death certificate, getting ready to inform the man's wife. The patient was gone. So as Dr. Rudy and his team began to leave, something extraordinary happened. The patient that was declared dead, at least for 20 minutes, suddenly began to stir. They noticed on the monitor his heart came back. His heart began beating again. Now it's way after 20 minutes. Spontaneously, it began beating again with no intervention. So the people in the room, they just froze. Dr. Rudy, a man who had seen it all, was standing there in disbelief. The nurses rushed back in the room. So the impossible was happening before their eyes. So days later, when the patient made a full recovery, there was no brain damage, no lingering effects. But what he told Dr. Rudy was even more astonishing. He described leaving his body. He said he slowly felt himself lift out of his body. And he said he was still in the operating room, that he wasn't looking up at the ceiling anymore. He was looking down at his body. He was actually floating in the operating room. And he said he saw Dr. Rudy and Dr. Amato talking to each other with their arms folded, and they were actually not standing near the gurney anymore. They were standing near the hospital room doors to the operating room. He said he even saw the anesthesiologist like come back into the room, leave the room. He saw where the nurses were sitting, the notes they were writing, and he was very, very specific. So specific that he said where the nurse was sitting, he could see her computer monitor, and that she was writing notes, like writing notes on sticky notes. And she was taping them kind of like in a successive order down the screen. Like that's very precise information. You could just be writing notes, have them here. No, she liked to tape her notes up on the monitor, the notes from the procedure. So she knew everything was done in order. And that's really important too. You need to know certain supplies went here, equipment was opened there, like taking very specific notes that you could later enter into the computer. So very specific details. He couldn't have known this during surgery. I mean, he was unconscious. So Dr. Rudy, who was a scientist through and through, he couldn't explain this either. The patient's eyes were even taped shut during anesthesia, and so his body was lifeless. Yet his account was so precise, and it was verified by everyone in the room. So Dr. Rudy then went on. He had a meeting with 13 other cardiac surgeons, and he told them of this incredible story. And he said during the meeting, there is something out there. Some call it God, some call it something else, but it's real. He was quoted to have said that during the meeting with the other cardiac surgeons. So this really shook up his life. So Dr. Rudy was no ordinary surgeon. He was actually a Vietnam War a hero, a member of Stanford's first heart transplant team, and a pioneer in heart surgery. And he dedicated his life to saving others. So in Montana, grateful patients created the Dr. Rudy fan club and named a day in his honor. But it was this Christmas miracle, this day, this NDE that stayed with him, and a story that he has later shared in interviews. You can find them here on YouTube. Dr. Amato, the other witness of this incredible NDE, he confirmed every detail of what went on. He said everything Dr. Rudy said is absolutely true. And even though the patient had died, he fully recovered with no side effects. And what he told us is what he experienced. So researchers later called this one of the most evidential cases of near-death experiences ever recorded. And I believe that too. I think the amount of precise detail that he could describe the room, and he was a physician himself. So, when he's talking to Dr. Rudy, they could really talk about, like, we know this is how surgery rooms are, but he was seeing things you couldn't have known otherwise unless you were alive in the room, and he was dead. Now, it's interesting, he didn't talk about a bright white light or, going through a tunnel, but maybe he didn't get a chance to, because then his heart was revived and he came back. Also, how did he come back? Because they said they tried everything and he died. I feel like that's a miracle too, obviously, because he was able to come back to life. So Dr. Rudy, the cardiologist, he passed away in 2012, but obviously his story lives on. What he witnessed in that hospital surgery room, that story lives on. And it's a reminder that even in the sterile precision of an operating room, mysteries still persist. Mysteries that challenge science and those that are in medicine and skeptics. A story like this might open their heart a little bit to know that, yeah, there is something there, right? There is something there, and it's real, just like Dr. Rudy said. So leave a comment below what you think of this incredible NDE story. Had you ever heard of this story before of Dr. Rudy? It is a true story. And I believe that even though he's passed away, the true life interviews that he gave, they're available on the internet. You can see them yourself. Okay. Thanks for being here. Give a like if you like this one, and I'll see you on the next one.